Are we looking at the most aggressive hairline design of the entire 2022 I have seen so far? Well, I'm gonna leave it up for you guys to decide, but even if it is the case, there's not much to be done about it right now or undo it. In this video, I would like to share with you the good and bad of this hair transplant procedure of this young TikToker teenager, and also share a word of caution for all of you guys who are interested in having your hair transplants done in your 20s, your first hair transplants, to bring that hair back to the next level in your 20s. So make sure you stay tuned. And as always, before we start, shout out to our sponsor, GoFiber. These are hair building fibers you can use to mask any thinning or patchy areas on your scalp to make your hair look thicker and better. So make sure you check out the link in the video description below where you can visit GoFiber, get a free sample of your choice and try them out. See if you like them. First of all, I would like to thank him also for sharing this with us. Like, he didn't have to, okay? He didn't have to post it on Instagram. He didn't have to do anything. So we should appreciate that he's sharing these results with us. All right, so I'm seeing our boy Ladzi for the first time on the Reddit, and he's posting this video on TikTok where I'm noticing his hairline where he kind of uncovers it, and I'm like, wow, who did that job? It's looking amazing, right? And he's kind of brushing the hair, it's looking super nice, soft. And then after a while, I realized this guy, he's about to get a hair transplant, right? And then you notice the shuttle service and all that luxury hotel and all that stuff. And you know what's going on, right? He's about to go to Turkey for a hair transplant. Obviously, he has hair loss. He has androgenetic alopecia. There is the pattern baldness kind of uncovering more on the left corner than on the right corner, and that's typical. You don't usually lose it equally on both corners. The distance from the mid-frontal point to the glabella, that means the side of his forehead, is still very nice for a teenager, even for a guy in his 20s. I mean, that's pretty low still, and it's looking good, and it doesn't look like the hairline is super thinned out. It's pretty defined still. Now, he goes to the clinic called Academic Hospital. Obviously, very unresponsible clinic, very unethical practice that lets such a guy who's probably 19 get away with such a transplant. This is a pure greed, just wanting to make money out of every possible case, I guess, not prioritizing the patient long-term well-being. So obviously the guy has the donor to get away with it, right? He has a pretty good donor area, as we will see later. So yeah, they do the surgery and it looks like that. So maybe something around 2,000 grafts, plus minus. Obviously they lowered the hairline, unfortunately, about a centimeter, you know, maybe even more than that. That's kind of what went on. I'm not saying the results look awful or anything. It actually may look pretty full and dense. I'm not sure about the softness and naturalness of the hairline and temples, because he also did the temples, unfortunately, which is a big risk if you are doing your first transplant as a guy in your 20s and probably even not on medication. So many risks at once, but we'll see about the results. You know, I'm not judging. Now, what do I think? What are the good and bad things about this surgery, and what are the risks in the future for all of you guys who would think about having a hair transplant in your 20s? Before I share with you my view, let's try to understand Ladzi a little bit better and not judge him for what he did, but where he's kind of coming from. So he posted this on his Instagram like in August, where he did the hair transplant. He says, already in 2017, I started to worry that my flaps in my hair started to grow upwards more and more. Therefore, since then, I have almost always had bangs. Okay, so he kept on brushing the hair forward like that. I really don't give a shit what you think about this. I'm doing this for my own sake, as I didn't like my hair, especially when the father, who is 56 years old, has a better hairline than me. I started to wonder if I'm adopted today. So more on this, like, if your father has a better hair than you, it doesn't mean that, you know, you will never go bald. You can have more hair loss, way more hair loss than your father's. I have taken the step of doing a hair transplant for my own sake, As I said, I don't dig my hair that much, although it's nice to do it now. I don't have to think about doing it later in life. So if he thinks that having a hair transplant right now will save him from not needing to do it later, he's also wrong, because if he does it right now, again, the hair loss will keep on progressing, especially on the mid scalp for him probably, and he will need to do another transplant in the future. So even if he doesn't have the Norbert 6 or Norbert 7 potential, he can still, definitely need 1-2 transplants easily over the course of his life. So it's not like do it once and be done with it, especially if you're in your 20s. It's not like that with a transplant.
Jag ser ut helt ärligt, men om några år, eller några år, jag vet inte hur lång tid det tar, men snart så.
Now, if we listen to him speaking, he seems like a pretty confident guy, probably doing well for his age, right? So I don't think he did it out of huge insecurity, maybe a mixture of that, maybe also a mixture of just being able to do it. There is a possibility to have a better hairline, and nowadays people are impatient. They want to have like instantly the best results with everything. They're not patient enough to get on treatment, do the minoxidil, do the finasteride, do the microdosing of topical finasteride, ketoconazole shampoo, microneedling. They don't want that, right? They want to go straight to next level hairline from recession like that, ideally in a matter of couple days without needing to do minoxidil treatment or any other treatment whatsoever. Now, interestingly, he also mentioned that in 2017, which was like 5 years ago, he started to worry about these receding corners, but actually I found some of his photos from 2021 and he looked like that. I mean, it doesn't even look like he has hair loss whatsoever. I mean, maybe a little bit something on the corners because it's kind of covered, we don't see it here, but the hairline looks super juvenile still. And I mean, wow, there's no signs of hair loss. And this is another photo from 2020, so 2 years ago. Also looks very dense and full and defined and pretty low, even on the corners, right? So yeah, he definitely lost some hairs, but not over the 5-year mark, as he kind of said, but probably in the last year or two must have experienced like a significant hair loss on these corners. But again, guys, heads up everybody, honestly, who would love to have this hair, post-transplant, what he has here? Probably most of us, right? And it's such a good hair, it's the Brad Pitt type of hair, not super straight, not super wavy. It has a super high density blonde, actually it's not so fine, it's actually fine to coarse. I mean, it's like for a guy, Scandinavian type of guy, it's looking like you are such a genetically gifted guy as far as your hair quality. Obviously you're losing it, but I mean, there's so much that could be done right now as far as treatment options to keep it like that for at least the next 5-10 years without even needing a transplant. If I compare it to my situation when I was at your age, like early 20s here, look at that scalp. Like that was me, by the way, okay? And if you don't show my face, you would think like this is a scalp of a 50 or 60 years old. Like the hair is super wispy. Look at the forehead size, it's super huge, right? And what I did, I obviously didn't think about transplant back then. I mean, I did the treatment of minoxidil and needling for a year and then I did the transplant. I was already 25 when I did my first transplant. And I mean, if I had his hair, I mean, I would not be even playing with the thought of having a hair transplant. That's my opinion, probably my view, and some other people watching this video would also think that the same way. I mean, especially if you have this type of hair that is easily gonna camouflage your receding corners. So obviously, if I would have been in his situation, I would have definitely waited with a hair transplant and I would have styled my hair like he did before doing the surgery, covered my kind of corners, and I would have been fine, personally. But if I had to do it, well, I would have would be willing to do something like that, kind of to lower the hairline, the anterior hairline on the left corner, maybe in about 1.5 centimeters or maximum 2 centimeters, as you can see me drawing here, and just create a soft frontotemporal transition to kind of softly reconnect the new hairline with the temple. But I would have not lowered it as much. I would definitely stayed away from lowering the hairline as such in like 1 centimeter or 1.5 centimeters as he did. I would have not done it at all. This type of hairline could look great on him also now in 10 years, in 15 years. And if he would also be able to take some, hair loss prevention treatment that could still maintain that nice thickness of his hair also on his frontal third, the rest of the frontal third and mid scalp, then I think this would be a great hairline for many years. Maybe he could, have it touched up a little bit over time, but nothing too aggressive, still saving a lot of hair in the donor area just in case. Because again, sometimes hair loss can be surprising, and just because your father doesn't have hair loss or there is a little hair loss in your family, the reality that you kind of develop that sudden hair loss from your 18 to 19 years of age, or maybe 18 to 20, it's already a pretty strong sign that maybe there's going to be more hair loss in the future. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had that sudden hair loss that made you from Norwood 1 to Norwood 1.5, or potentially even Norwood 2 just in a couple years of your 20s, of your teens. After all, I do wish him the best. I hope he will have a result that he will be happy with and satisfied with. So maybe I'm gonna do an update on him, maybe 6 or 8 months later, just so you guys can see how it turned out. And for all of you guys who are interested in a hair transplant and you want to have a one-on-one guidance from somebody who has done a hair transplant, who guided several hundreds of guys with that decision, share with them the do's and don'ts of the hair transplant and help them maximize their hair transplant success by assisting them directly with the clinic choice and all these things around the hair transplant, then make sure you check out my link in the video description below, where you can find out more information how I can help you out one-on-one with my consulting service that I've been offering for the last 2-3 years with great success for all of the guys who didn't know where to start, which doctor to choose, how to do it right, and avoid all the mistakes that, some of them we have seen also in this video. Take care, everybody, and I'm gonna be seeing you soon in another video.